Gary Hunter, be followed by Eric Dwyer.
My name's Gary Hunter. I live out between Harpersville and Windsor. And like the fellows up here earlier, I'm a member of the Operating Engineers Local 158. I've worked on the Hudson River dredging project that was talked about. Last year I worked on Gilboa Dam, and the year before that I worked on the Millennium Pipeline. And as far as the Millennium Pipeline went, as far as what I could see, it was real careful restoration about putting the land back. Everything was monitored very carefully. Everything from laying sod, putting everything back where it should be. Any kind of wetland that we had to go across was done very carefully, and it was really painstakingly done. I'm in favor of this gas drilling because I think our area needs jobs. You ride around, there's a lot of houses for sale. People are just losing everything around here, and we have to do something. And I believe it would create a lot of jobs for a lot of folks down here. The other thing I would ask of our politicians, I know that there was a compressor station done out in Owego, and I personally called the Oil and Gas Coalition out there because it was an out-of-state worker and contractors. I would ask that a lot of this work be given to local people, people that are going to live here long after this work is done. Thank you, and that's all I have.
Thank you. Eric Dwyer. Next speaker after Eric, Mr. Dwyer, will be Mary Alice Kobleck.
How you doing, everybody? My name's Eric Dwyer. Thank you for this chance to speak. I'm an ESF student up at the Environmental Science and Forestry School up in Syracuse, New York. I grew up in Syracuse, born and raised. I understand the importance of domestic energy. I know that New York sends out $38 billion every single year out of our state to buy energy from other states. So in the short term, you would think that fracturing gas from our shale would make sense. Unfortunately, we don't live in the short term. We live in the long term, and that's something that we have to take into consideration. For example, many states, according to the General Accountability Office, 36 states actually are facing significant water shortages, and that's because we're depleting 25% in excess of our recharge rates, which is from groundwater, which 31% of all of our agricultural water comes from groundwater. And this is obviously a significant concern for New York and for anyone who's a farmer. You also have to recognize that all these farmers are put in a very difficult situation. These are their livelihoods that are at stake. They see this check and they see a new way of life for their families, and that's understandable. So you have to have empathy for that. What we have to do, though, is show them that there is another way, and that way is through supporting our farmers and getting back to a sustainable form of agriculture. That means that maybe they want to familiarize themselves with corporations like Monsanto, and if you aren't, then check them out. I'm sure you'll be surprised. But that just goes along with this idea that we have to keep growing and growing. If you guys don't know, we don't have a frontier anymore. A ceaseless exponential growth can only get us so far. And that's one of the reasons why we're concerned about all of our water and what that means for us in the future. So as our environmental regulators, our protectors of our public health, our air, our land, and our water, I'm calling on you to withdraw the SGICE and look at the cumulative impacts on our air and our water, on our public health. We don't have a plan to deal with millions and billions of gallons of wastewater. And we need more information. And this is something that, whether what side you're on, you can agree that perfect information is good, right? Free market economics kind of stuff. That's the kind of stuff we need, and we can't, companies exempt from the Safe Drinking Water Act, Clean Water Act, Clean Air Act, not telling us what's going into our land is something of concern, and you should kind of just use your common sense when it comes to that kind of stuff. But thank you guys, appreciate it.
Thank you. Mary Alice Kobler, you'll be followed by Jonathan Comstock.
I'm Mary Alice Kobler. I am a landowner. I live and farm in Brooktondale, New York. Water wars, the coming battle over the Earth's most precious resource. Have you heard about these ideas of water being our most precious resource? There it is, front and center of the December 2011 issue of the science magazine Discover. These water war ideas are not new ones. I would also point out the obvious, that what we share here is a wealth of water, some of the best on the planet. I am here tonight to tell you that the SGICE is woefully inadequate in addressing the risk-reward issues of protecting and stewarding our precious natural resources. The fact that DEC is ready to regulate hydrofracking and may even start the permit process before even considering or responding to our well-researched opinions is offensive in the extreme. The gas companies want us to believe in the urgency of their bid to exploit shale gas, and they try to convince us that it is in our natural interest. It is a cynical lie. I urge you to read the current edition of Forbes, which highlights this guy, Aubrey McClendon, the head of Chesapeake Oil Company. He is a gambling risk junkie, and he typifies the industry. These industry wildcatters are dependent on getting in quick, making their land grab before the populace wakes up to the problems. Well, we are awake, and every day we get more bad news about gas industry practices and the damages that they're doing. And every day, more and more people are coming up to speed with these issues and are joining the ranks of those of us that are saying no to high-pressure slickwater hydrofracking. The SGICE report is seriously flawed and should be withdrawn. Your consulting agency gave the economic pie in the sky scenario for huge job growth potential, but left out those of us who work in the agriculture, tourism, and wine industry. I currently make my living by small farming, and my farm is not worth anything without the water. I grow beautiful food for myself, my family, and others. My land is not for sale, and yet currently compulsory integration will rob my grandchildren of their birthright. If gas drilling industrial activities comes to Tompkins County, my income will evaporate, my job will be gone. Have you also read yesterday's news? I urge you to read the ProPublica article on fracking waste chemicals found in the Wyoming aquifer. Also, good reporting now tells us that fracking and fracking wastewater injection wells causes earthquakes. The common sense question to ask then is, does causing earthquakes qualify as an accident?
Don't forget to leave your written comments with the stenographer. Jonathan Comstock, to be followed by Jonas Spurry.
My name is Jonathan Comstock. I'm a New York resident from Tompkins County, and I urge Governor Cuomo and DEC Commissioner Martins to withdraw the draft SGICE. I've heard tonight that shale gas is a bridge to a renewable future. That's like saying you can go forwards by walking backwards. The current SGICE fails to address cumulative effects. As such, it cannot adequately protect communities, ecosystems, long-term economics, or the public health. The DEC also misrepresents historical drilling experience by saying there have been no past incidents. While the DEC may never have taken effective action, complaints have numbered quite large, and there have been many injured citizens. Not a single scientific study has been undertaken to accurately assess the long-term health impacts of a variety of toxin exposure avenues, including well failings, surface chemical spills, and deliberate volatilization of hazardous chemicals from flowback fluids. Hundreds, if not thousands, of individual complaints across the country have been obscured and hidden by non-disclosure agreements demanded for even partial industry compensation. Such non-disclosure clauses should not be allowed in New York. The seriousness of these incidents is real, and a long list of medical associations within New York State has expressed grave concern over the lack of studies and investigation. The failure to address these concerns puts the SGICE in clear violation of its mandate. The SGICE treats these unevaluated hazards as if they had been evaluated and proven safe. In this manner, the DEC and the drilling industry would be in effective collusion, placing an impossible burden of proof on injured private citizens instead of actually demonstrating what practices are safe and holding the industry responsible for its actions. The proposed SGICE would undermine our safety by failing to recognize that the hazardous chemicals going into a well are equally hazardous when they come back out. This will result in weak and inadequate guidelines for their disposal. Proving a case of illness caused by hypothesized and undisclosed chemicals is, of course, virtually impossible. Therefore, complete lists of chemicals with quantitative amounts of each, proprietary or not, must be provided well by well. These lists must be available in advance of use, because without them, water testing is a futile, ineffective endeavor. Lack of full chemical disclosure ensures minimal liability for the drilling companies under a deliberate cloak of ignorance placed over knowable risks. The insincerity of protections in the proposed SGICE is also obvious in the unequal protections granted to the watersheds of New York City compared to the rest of the state. Finally, Executive Order 24 sets the target of an 80% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions in New York by 2050, and methane is an extremely potent greenhouse gas. The SGICE must include an absolute requirement for the full capture of fugitive gases associated with flowback waters and completion stages of well drilling. Thank you.
Thank you. Jonah Spurrier, to be followed by Alan Vogel. Got it.
Hello, I'm Jonah Spurrier. I'm from Trumansburg, New York. I'm representing all the kids in New York State. When I'm your age, I hope to have clean drinking water. When I'm old enough to get a job, I hope my job is not toxic. Why should you be allowed to put something in the ground and say whether it's safe or not if you don't know what's in it? And if it is safe, why is it exempt from the Clean Water Act? All of you people are in your future. This is about my future and my kids' future. Thank you for your time, and thanks for listening.
Thank you. Alan Vogel, to be followed by Julia Walsh. Mr. Vogel. Julia Walsh. To be followed by John Parker.
My name is Julia Walsh. I'm the campaign director of Frack Action. I'm a landowner with 5 acres in the Catskill Mountains in both the Marcellus and Utica Shale, and I'm a former elected official from the Village Board of New Paltz. I just want to say I want to make a formal complaint and urge others to do the same in this process of these hearings. Many of us stood online, and when those doors were open, it was just a rush in, and all of the people that had waited on the front of the line were kind of pushed to the side. I think that you really need to reconsider how you're running these hearings so that everyone can speak that are in line at the time that they were put in line and came in line for Loch Sheldrick in New York City. I became into this issue as a landowner when I heard of this industry being exempt from federal laws put into place to protect Americans from toxic corporations. I began to educate myself about the industry and thought that fracking could never happen in this state. I'm still shocked that we are having this conversation. It is clear that this industry will threaten our economy, environment, public health, and safety. And for the millions of dollars that the gas industry has, they can't even turn out a large number of people to these hearings right now, and that their shirts that say jobs, they don't seem to understand that those jobs are going to be coming from out-of-state drillers who are trained in other states how to drill rigs. We don't have those jobs, and I think I can speak for most of the young people in this room when we don't want those jobs. I'm calling on the commissioner of the DEC to withdraw this document and for the governor of New York to ban fracking completely and engage in a real renewable energy economy that this country desperately needs a leader and a state to follow. I also want to say that as an elected official, I was sworn to uphold the state's constitution of equal protection under the law, and it is clear that this document is a political document creating the guise of protection for some in Syracuse and New York City at the threat of for others across this state. New Yorkers realize this. The emperor has no clothes, and we can see that. I'm urging you in the DEC right now to really call yourself into finding out what is the reason that you're in this position to begin with, to protect the environment and the public's health. We need whistleblowers now. The time has come to stand up. People are afraid across this state right now. They are terrified that they are going to be poisoned and that their children are going to get cancer because of this industry. And I call on you in your ethics and your own morality right now to stand up and join us in the call to stop this insanity and stop this industry from moving forward and destroying this beautiful, vibrant state that we love.
Thank you, Ms. Walsh. John Parker, to be followed by Allison Spicer.
Mic check. Mic check. We are the 99%. We will not sit by while gas companies exploit our land, all for the sake of monetary gain. We do not believe that short-term economic gain is worth long-term issues with pollution. Gas companies have corrupted our leaders with the promise of monetary gain. The DEC report does not do enough to protect the people of New York from the negligence of gas companies. The DEC report does not do enough to protect the Finger Lakes region. Environmental regulators from all over the country have demanded the disclosure of all of the chemicals used in fracking. Gas companies have refused to do this because they claim they are trade secrets, even though many of the chemicals that they are using are known to have adverse effects on human health. Can anyone here give us one solid reason that has nothing to do with money why we should drill? We are the 99%. We are the 99%. We are the 99%. We are
Sir,
the 99%.
add an additional comment.
We are the 99%.
That's not adding anything to the record.
The 99%. We are 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 the 99%. We are.
Thank you. Could have got a lot more information on the record if you had just done that all on your own. Allison Spicer, to be followed by Chris Tate.
That's a tough act to follow. Can you hear me? Okay. That was tough. How about now? All right. My name is Allison Spiker. I have called New York State my home for most of my life, and I hope to call it my home for the rest of most of my life. What? Yeah, we're the 99. It's okay. So this week, for the last 3 days, I have been lucky, privileged enough. All right. I've been privileged to be able to sit in on an 8th grade middle school class. It's called the Expeditionary Learning Middle School in Syracuse, New York. They're doing a curriculum right now called Progress and Dilemma, where these 8th graders look into an issue, current events, from immigration to whatever else, to hydrofracking. These 8th graders research very thoroughly about this issue, and they figure out what the progress is and what the dilemma is that faces them. So progress. Hydrofracking is a clear step in progress in New York State. You know, there's readily available resources, jobs, economy, all these things are clear. The dilemma, however, is compelling. You know, gas is a boom and bust industry, just like all other fossil fuels. I plan to live here for more than 50 years, and they say that the gas is gonna be gone in 20 to 50. The rate we use it, it'll probably be gone quicker. Fracking is gonna change the face of New York State forever. It changes landscapes dramatically all over. I've been to Dimock, Pennsylvania. It changed that landscape so much. We cannot forget that here in New York State, we have this great resource. I mean, we've got a readily available resource of gas. We've also got a readily available resource of so much beautiful fresh water. It hurts. Oh my, I'm running out of time. Okay, so if I had 3 wishes, I don't want 3 wishes, I want 9. Put limits on discharges and enforce them like crazy. Make sure they're barred from discharging into Great Lakes or Finger Lakes or anything. I like my lakes. I demand that gas companies give back to the communities if they come, you know, reinforce the infrastructure, hire only locally, give all workers insurance. Give all people who have that land, give them the insurance of their safety. Be transparent, disclose all the chemicals. Landowners deserve this knowledge before they go, before they sign anything. And no more non-disclosure agreements. People should never have to sell off their right to speak about the things that have been done to them just for money. Turn to renewable energy. It's going to create jobs. I speak for myself and the generations after me. Drill responsibly or do not drill at all. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris Tate, to be followed by George Gafforth.
All right, thanks for everybody for coming out tonight. We really appreciate it. It's important that everybody make their voices heard. And I'm going to take a few minutes to adjust this mic here, so I want that time. Thanks. And, you know, I have the advantage of coming on a little later, and I heard the one opening gentleman say that God gave us these resources. Why not use them early on? And, you know, all I can say is, please, sir, whoever you were, you know, Jesus wouldn't frack. You know, would he? Would Jesus frack? And I would like the DEC to investigate that, please. And indeed, ask Jesus if he would frack. Because I think it's important. I think a lot of people would want to know the answer to that question. You know, it's important. The other thing that I'd really like to say to the DEC is, you know, I feel bad for you guys. I think you're a compromised organization. I think you're compromised by two different mandates. On one hand, your mandate is to aid in the extraction of minerals, and on the other hand, your mandate is to protect us and protect the environment from pollution. And I think those are completely conflicted, and I think that's why we're having so much trouble. So I would really ask that the industrial side of aiding the extraction of minerals be separated, and we need a completely different, two different organizations, one for the extraction of minerals and another one to protect us, because having the two together just breeds corruption, I think, honestly. And I think over decades, this organization has bred itself into an organization that aids industry in the extraction of minerals in New York State, and I don't think that's a good thing. You know, when your mandate is also to protect us, it's obviously conflicted. So I feel bad for you on that, and I wouldn't want your jobs. And but thank you for hanging in there with us and trying to do your best. I also appreciate that. Unfortunately, I, as a biomedical engineer, I graduated from Case Western Reserve University in 1985. My name's Chris Tate, by the way. I don't think I said that at the beginning. But, you know, as a biomedical engineer, this SGEIS is fatally flawed. It's just, you know, it's a good start, but I think you have to withdraw it. And I really think the people that are pushing for a short-term, you know, oh, let's solve this right away. I said, well, why? Why should we solve this right away?
Sorry, sir, your time
This is a public hearing, and I'm going to finish. Why should we solve this problem right away?
No, sir.
Why should we not take 25
Every
years
other speaker has stayed
and
within the 3
study
minutes,
what's
and
going on
I'm going to have
in the
to
rest of the
insist that you
country?
stay within the
It's
court
a public
report.
hearing, you know, it really
the court
is. You
reporter
know.
does not need to record his further statements.
I endorse the testimonies of Dr. Sandra Steingraber and Walter Hang, and I think you should please review them, and please have a comprehensive.
I need to remind members of the audience, we're not here to hear one speaker, we're here to hear several speakers. And by allowing this kind of disruption to occur, it takes away from other people who want to express their opinions. I'd like to call the next speaker. That'll be Gage, I believe it's Goforth or Goforth.
Yeah.
Peter King. Peter King. And the last name I have is Jeff Wright. Okay, we'll need to call down additional speakers.
All right, I'll call the following speakers down at this time: Elizabeth Salon, Janice Harrison, Edward Harrison, John Rovick, Fred Rovent, Larry Denton, Tyler Oakley, Lisa Caraballo, and Karen Jamarasti.
Elizabeth Salon.
That's me. Yes, I'm Elizabeth Salon. I'm a medical professional, family nurse practitioner for over 30 years. I want to say that the fracking exemption from the Clean Water Act was an immoral political decision. It was wrong. It should be repealed. Meanwhile, the SGIS is insufficient to protect New York State's children, waterfalls, food supply, and water, and it should be withdrawn, and the natural gas frackers told to go away. Their hydrofracking process is fundamentally flawed, and that they can maybe come back when they can comply with the rules and the regulations of the Clean Water Act. Number two, I want to address this idea about jobs. Decent jobs are not coming here to New York State with fracking. The workers are being imported to this area. I've seen them because I work in the Owego Health Department area, and I met several displaced fracking workers from Pennsylvania who were displaced because of the September floods, and they were from Texas and Alabama and Oklahoma. These jobs are not for New Yorkers. They're bringing their own. And I can tell you, this flood and the environmental impact has Mother Nature herself fighting back against these life impacts in traffic snarls, perpetual noise, road destruction, air and water being poisoned. New York State needs jobs, but we need sustainable jobs like solar jobs and wind power jobs with bills in New York State that would be like Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Kentucky, Tennessee, Vermont, New Jersey, jobs that pay well, even for young people. Finally, I want to address the health impacts that are on people that have no adequate treatment. I have attended lectures by an endocrinologist who has warned the medical community about the symptoms that we can expect to see and that have been seen, and about the case presentations and how it is that we have no drugs and we have no treatments to help these injured and diseased people that have been impacted by the poisoning of their air and their water and their land. So I ask you, as a medical professional, I ask you to withdraw the SGIS because it is inadequate to protect us. And the gas companies should be sent away back to the drawing board. We do need jobs. The American people and our economy is suffering, but it is suffering not because we don't already have viable industry and a viable lifestyle in New York State. It's suffering because most of our tax money is being shuffled overseas into arming soldiers and drones and war machines and waging wars to take control of other oil and gas in other countries.
Thank you. Janice.